All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Recoup. I'm Cooper Daniels, and today I am here with Abdul Osman. He is the CEO of the Gora Network. How you doing, Abdul?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Coop, how are you?
I'm pretty good. This is the first time I'm doing one of these in quite a while. I'm excited it's you. This is our how many times have we done this?
I think our third, huh?
Yeah, it's our third. It's our
Yeah,
third
it
time.
feels like the
Yeah.
first one was like 10 years ago. I don't know why.
Right? And like 17 names ago, right? What I
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah,
we've at least discussed Gora Network through each stage. It was first,
I think
Algor,
so.
it was Algorical, and
I
then it
think
was
so. Yeah.
Goracle, and now it's Gora Network. So tell us,
Gora. Yeah,
yeah,
next it might just be G. Who knows?
G. Oh, I like that G. Just
Who's
G.
shortening it?
You'd be like Elon Musk, right? So
Yeah,
he
exactly.
took X, you'll take G.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, I think. So tell us a little bit about the name rebrand for fun.
Yeah, for sure. So, I
Yeah.
mean, we're a decentralized oracle, right? And everybody knows in this space, an oracle is a piece of software that gets data from the outside world. But there's a very massive company. I won't say their name, but they didn't like us being called Oracle, right?
I wonder who
Oracle.
that is. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
it
mystery.
rhymed with Goracle. Let's just put it like that. And so, we now actually do a lot more than just getting off-chain data on chain.
Hmm.
Because getting data on chain is just a task, right? You run a function and it gets data off chain, and we realized, hey, we can actually do a lot more. We could do computations like bonding curve math that's, or even any type of function that's too expensive to do on chain. So oracles are people just see it as getting off-chain data on chain, but since we do off-chain computation, we were always thinking of going in that direction.
Right.
But this big player in this space made us move a lot faster with our name rebrand, because of the similarities and whatnot, and
Right.
we didn't want to fight that battle. So because we
Yeah.
were going to do it anyways, we just decided to, hey, let's do it now before we really become known as Oracle.
Well, I feel like Gora Network has a good ring to it, so no problem, right?
Yeah. I don't think last time you were calling us G Oracle, so I think everybody will have no problem calling us Gora Network.
Did I? Did I call you G Oracle? I mean, I'm not.
Absolutely.
There's moments where I'm a special type of stupid. Like I remember this. I remember mispronouncing. I was saying Go Oracle. I think I was saying
And
Go.
there's Go Oracle. We heard
Yeah,
it all.
you heard it all.
We
Yeah,
barely said it right, and it's funny because everybody was like Goracle, yeah, but then when
yeah,
we're like, we're not Gora, literally everybody's like, much better name,
yeah.
and I'm like, why didn't you tell us the old name was bad? You're just being nice, I
Oh,
guess, huh?
everybody's too nice. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, just so the crowd knows, we're live on YouTube and Twitter. If you're on Twitter, if you're watching on Twitter and you want to ask questions at the end, move over to YouTube, and that's where we'll be taking questions. And also, if you do have questions, make sure you ask them when I prompt you, because if you ask them now, I'm not going to see them, and then we might not get to it. But yeah, okay. So look, Gora Network is making moves. I like we just talked about. We've spoken to you in the past. You've been in the Algorand ecosystem for a while, and look, and let's just be honest. We're watching a lot of stuff go away. We're watching a lot of things close up shop. We're watching a lot of promises not being kept. We're watching a lot of money, not being utilized to building products necessarily. But something I've noticed about Gora is that you guys continue to build, and almost remarkably, you're gaining momentum in this bear market. So why don't you let everybody know? Do you think that's true as well? Am I making a accurate observation? And what do you think is setting Gora apart from some of these other projects that potentially, you know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's when we started building, I think Algorand was at $2 and something,
right.
Cooper. And it was great. It was a wonderful
You
place
said,
to
I'm sorry, the way you said Cooper, like it was $2 and something,
this is
Cooper.
like, because
Remember
this
that?
was a long time ago. I felt like I had to use the full name.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
So much happened since then. There was like the Celsius bankruptcies, there was the Luna collapse, there was the FTX, and it's felt like we've been in a bear market for a very, very long time. And in fact, like 60, 70 of the projects that we signed LOIs with, who we're going to use our protocol, are just no longer there. They're no longer building, or they're in maintenance mode. And so, yeah, I totally agree. It's definitely prolonged. And so, yeah, so I think one thing that has really helped us is having that the same core group of developers and team, and most of them pretty much have really committed to this. And I think everybody who works in this space kind of understands the usage is not as high as it will be, and it's kind of a nascent technology. And so we kind of made a decision, like, we'll get there. We had a lot of setback. We were supposed to go live last year. We were supposed to go live in the winter. We finally made it live. And I think really just what has helped us a lot was the fact that, oracles are necessary infrastructure, and we really didn't necessarily market specifically to the Algorand community. We just marketed everywhere, right? And most of our community comes from outside of Algorand. Like, I think 80% of our pre-sale buyers got Para for the first time, and so I think it helped just focus on our marketing on just the entire space, and it helped people realize oracles are really important, and oracles are hard to build, so there's not that much competition. There's like the big Chainlink, but after Chainlink it gets really slim. So I think it's an area where if you can build it properly, there's so much market share to capture and so much excitement.
Yeah. You said a lot in there that I want to kind of dive into, but one thing you said is that you did go on to mainnet. I believe it was July 5th.
July 5th, yeah, we finally, after a year and a half of building, we finally got to mainnet. So we were very excited about that on Algorand. Yeah, it's a lot of fun stuff there.
So, okay, so why don't we start there with Algorand, and maybe you can break down this for me. What, as you know, now obviously it's a little bit different because you guys are live on mainnet, but what is or was the current state of oracles on Algorand, and how does Gora improve that?
Yeah, so the current state of oracles on Algorand is you have, I think, Folks Feed, which is focused on like a certain number of price pairs, but outside of that, it's really non-existent, right?
So we're basically, just so the audience knows, so we're basically just trusting these apps to kind of get these price feeds and stuff like that. So it's on a case by case basis. If you're building a DEX or something on Algorand, those builders are responsible for accurate pricing.
Yeah, exactly. And like DEX is like tiny, man. They're automated, right? So they don't need oracles, right? Yeah. But there's one of the bigger protocols a few months ago had USDC at $1, right? Yeah. And USDC went down to 88 cents, and it caused a lot. And it was a really big protocol, so I think there was a lot of money that was kind of messed up there. But you can see the importance. Even something as reliable as USDC price, it's not an on-chain entity. Right. You still need the price of $1 on-chain, no matter what, because you never know what real-world event might happen. And so, because of that instance and not having a functional oracle when that protocol was built, they relied on this kind of a dollar will always be a dollar type thing. And you can see how that affected the protocol. And so now we're just talking about price feeds, but now you look at insurance, you look at flight data, sports. I think we're really big on sports data on chain. These are areas where the entire blockchain space oracles are not that mature, and so we're very excited to build more than just price feeds.
Right. I mean, yeah, when you mention sports, I guess like scores and betting like that is rather simple. But if you're trying to build like a fantasy football app or a fantasy whatever app, there is a ton of data that needs to be accurate and on-chain if you're going to try to do that with blockchain.
Exactly. One of our partners, Kix, is building a football trading app, and every player has a lot of statistics. And getting that all on-chain, you gotta be able to do it right, and in a way that one of the devs can't just put on some fake values and irreversibly run away with a bunch of money.
Right. And so how is it going since launching on mainnet? Are projects using the Oracle? What's the state of it right now?
Yeah. So the moment you go live, that's kind of when people see you as, okay, now it's a legitimate protocol. We can start building on it. And before you go live, especially in this space, people are like, are they going to make it? You're supposed to go live then. So now that we're live, the conversations and business development has really taken off. And, we're in a position now where we need to hire 1 or 2 more salespeople who can handle the kind of this interest in volume, and not just on Algorand, but even on other chains that we're hoping to expand on in the near future.
Right. And one of those chains is a layer 2 solution, Arbitrum. You're on testnet at Arbitrum. I know Polygon's coming soon. And I think I read Cosmos as well is on the roadmap. And this is all rather soon, right? I mean, you're already on Arbitrum testnet, correct?
Yeah, a lot faster than me. So kind of the way it works is Gora is its own network, right? It's its own blockchain almost. The only thing we can't call it a blockchain is because it doesn't keep track of history. It creates a block, writes it, then moves on to the next one. And it uses Algorand's consensus mechanism as well. And so, what we're able to do is, now that we have our network, it's just a matter of building the smart contracts that make requests and receive the responses on chain. So as long as we can build that smart contracts, which we did on Algorand, we just need to replicate that exact same code on these other networks. And so the first heavy lifting was changing it from Algorand's specialized PyTeal language to Solidity. Now that it's Solidity, it's just a matter of kind of testing it and then deploying it to every chain that uses Solidity, right? Which is like quite a few of them. And then from there, you do the Rust ones for Cosmos. And then another big one that's coming up is Radix, lesser known layer 1, but up and coming. And so that's kind of our strategy moving forward for the rest of this year, is really build out our network so that people can make requests from any chain.
Right.
The cool thing about that is we're able to, every chain we go on, we connect those chains. So on Algorand right now, you can read data from any chain because it's the outside world. Right. Now that we're going to be on Arbitrum, you can write data to Arbitrum. So now you can seamlessly move data between Arbitrum and Algorand. Every chain we go on, you can move data between them. Every chain we're on, you can read data from any other chain.
So I imagine that opens up possibilities of Arbitrum and Algorand, maybe adapt that deploys on both very easily. Do you have examples of, give me an example of something that you can picture that would use Gora that would utilize both Algorand and Arbitrum?
Let's take a look at NFT auctions, right? Let's say you want to sell an NFT on Algorand, but you want people to be able to bid from any chain. And so now you have these, wallets on all these different chains, and you just decentrally are able to read the highest bid from all these other chains. And, after the auction's over, you can see what the highest bidder is and release that NFT to the user. And now that way, people can hold their NFT on Algorand and pay for it on BNB chain, for example.
That's cool. I could even see maybe like an NFT artist being cross-chain, and it's like whoever the winning bidder is on which chain, they can mint the NFT on that chain, the winner's chain or something like that. Who knows? But that's pretty cool. So, okay, how you mentioned Chainlink, and then there's really because you say Oracle, everybody in this space thinks Chainlink, and then it's kind of like, and who else? So obviously Gora Network is one of them. How does Gora differentiate from something like Chainlink?
Yeah, great question. So Chainlink is the first mover, right? And our off-chain computation, they have Chainlink functions. Our data feeds, they have data feeds. Some of them are free. But really what it comes down to is all our products being in one place. With them, you have to make 6 or 7 different products because they're just building a new product, and each one is a separate product. And it's because when they first launched, they were literally just these Ethereum price feeds that people were reading from for free. And every time they release a new product, it's kind of like a separate thing that you have to do separately. But for us, it's like all of that is just one same protocol, same API. And so we're, I'll admit we're standing on the shoulders of giants in terms of being able to learn from a lot of the research they've done. And they're battle tested, right? So,
for sure.
And when people think of Chainlink as our competition, and that question comes up a lot, oh, isn't there already Chainlink? The answer to that is actually simple. Like Chainlink, 90% of apps that use an Oracle use Chainlink on the EVM network, but only 20% of projects that need an oracle are using an oracle, which means if you look at all the projects, 80% of them are building their own oracle, right? And so our competition is not Chainlink, it's projects building their own centralized oracle.
Right.
And another key differentiator is Gora is very decentralized, right? And the goal for it is, we can't shut down the network right now. It's live. We couldn't shut it down. We're planning to decentralize the token even more and kind of put it in these escrow contracts so we don't have control over it. And with Chainlink, they're a bit more centralized. They have so much more control of the protocol. And what that means is the more decentralized a protocol is, the more the value is captured by the stakeholders. You look at Ethereum, for example, and Ethereum's value is captured by the users, the people who are using it in many ways, in the miners and things like that. Whereas a protocol like Chainlink, when Ethereum was at $200, Chainlink was $6. Now Ethereum is $2,000, which shows a lot of growth. Chainlink is still under $10, which means it hasn't scaled to the same size because you have a central entity using it to fund most of their, tens of millions of dollars a year in operations. So I think being decentralized is really slept on, and a lot of people are giving protocols some leeway, understanding that, hey, even Bitcoin started off centralized. And so I think we're really taking it's a lot of steps to reach decentralization a lot faster. The protocol was decentralized from day one, and now it's just a matter of decentralizing the token, a problem which, of course, Coop doesn't have.
No, right? No, Coop. And I believe you have a Coop announcement and you have a Gora announcement that we'll talk about in a bit. But so we'll get to that. Let's dangle that. But so I want to dive in a little bit. Well, the first thing I want to say is one of the main reasons why a lot of these apps are using their own centralized oracles is because Chainlink is expensive. Is that one of them?
Yeah, not only are they expensive, but let's say you want some sports data scores. Chainlink is mostly built for price feeds, right? And everything else is kind of added on, and they don't move as fast as protocols need, and they're not able to deliver large volumes of data, mostly because they're on Ethereum, high gas fees, and so Gora was designed in a way where you can get large amounts of data on chain very quickly, and so it's really being able to take advantage of so much of the advancements made in blockchain in the last 2 years, whereas and a protocol like Chainlink can't just change easily. They have like these billion-dollar protocols that are built, and if Chainlink changes, these protocols are fully decentralized, they just collapse, right? So they have to maintain that backwards compatibility. And so coming as the latest player on the scene, we were free from a lot of these types of commitments, and we were able to build something that takes advantage of a lot of the latest technology.
Cool. So let's dive in a little bit on Gora's decentralization. You mentioned it just now. So how you could maybe break down how the Gora network actually works, and consensus and Gora works, and how you get the accurate price feeds and data, and how you obviously through decentralization, I'm sure, is the answer on how you keep people honest and keep out bad actors. But maybe you can dive into how many nodes or how many people are running nodes and how that whole thing works.
Absolutely. So, first of all, you can think of it, a lot of the audience are probably Algorand native audiences. And so you can already imagine how Algorand works. You have these participation nodes, they run consensus or relay nodes that just kind of move data between them. With what Goracle does is essentially the same. You have these nodes, and I think there's somewhere almost 50 right now in mainnet. And only one of them is operated by Gora. The rest are operated by individual validators or companies, institutional validators as well. A few of them running nodes for Chainlink as well. And so these validators are chosen randomly every time there's a request for data. And when you're chosen randomly to be kind of this committee, how many votes you get on the data is also chosen randomly. And they all get the data from these sources that were kind of chosen. So you have these institutional grade data providers that feed in the data, and these node operators have to all get it from these predefined sources, which the community can vote these sources in or out. So these sources are not, node runners. They're just from somewhere else. And then what they do is they all have the value. So I know Bitcoin's 29K, you got 29K, and then we vote on chain using Algorand's consensus mechanism. If Gora wanted to say, all right, we're done, we don't want to run this network anymore, we can shut down our node, but we can't shut down any of the other nodes, right? It's just going to keep running. And in fact, I think there's a testnet network out there just running with people running it. And so that's the first step of decentralization. If the team leaves, you can't shut down the protocol. That's, I think, the key measure. The next thing is the token. So the token right now, let's face it, it's actually fairly centralized. We hold a lot of control over it. But what we're doing is we're creating these kind of escrow type smart contracts where we can put all these tokens into. So you have the ecosystem fund, right, which is like 30 or 40%, and it just goes to reward the consensus. And that's going to be held in these escrow smart contracts. And that's kind of the goal in the next 3 or 4 months, is to minimize how many tokens we actually hold in our treasury, and put most of it, which is I think 80%, in these smart contracts that nobody has control over, and really putting governance and DAO in control of these. It's a lot harder in practice than it is in theory, but this commitment we've made.
Well, it seems like the Gora token would be very important moving forward for the protocol to keep going. If you guys backed out, there needs to be an incentive for people to continue to provide this data. And I'm sure the Gora token plays into the incentive, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So with Algorand, I don't think their participation is rewarded for the nodes, or the nodes is not incentivized.
Okay.
But with us, I think 30 or 40% of tokens are literally just locked up to incentivize. Every time somebody mines a block, every time somebody votes, they get like a fraction of a reward, right? And it's probabilistic. So the more you have staked, the more likely you are to earn a reward. It's no guarantee. And I think Algorand used to be like this at some point.
Right.
But in the end, it's one of those things where these rewards are locked up for a very long time. And if the consumer fees that are paying, like the gas fees, are higher, then those participation rewards are not actually handed out. So they stay, right? So they're only handed out if the rewards from gas fees fall below a certain threshold. So if we grow really big, within the next 1 or 2 years, those tokens may never be distributed. And it's important that all of that is decentralized.
Right. And so you can stake Gora, you can run a node. So tell me a little bit about the different use cases for Gora and, the value proposition of Gora.
Yeah, I think the central thing in Gora is running a node, right? Using that token to get votes in blocks. And if you're holding the token and you don't know how to run nodes, or you don't want to run nodes, you can just delegate that non-custodial to any of the validators who are in our portal. What they will do is they'll take a 10% commission on your rewards, and they'll vote on your behalf. They can't choose how to vote on your behalf. They have to vote how the protocol says, right? They just install the software, and the votes are, unless you're manipulating it, then you change how you vote. But everybody votes how they're supposed to. And so that's kind of the essence. And even when you go to vote in the DAO and, hey, there's a proposal up, your vote weight is based on how much you have staked in the node, or how much you have delegated, right? Everything is kind of based on how much. And really, the reason why it's so focused on putting those tokens into running nodes, or putting those tokens into delegating into node runners, is because we want that consensus to be kind of solid. And the more solid the consensus is, the more hack-proof it is. And oracles are essentially one of the highest levels of security after layer ones that you need on a network. So the more people who are staking, the more people who have delegated those tokens or running nodes, the harder it is to get over 50% of the total supply, because that's how you can hack the system, is getting over 50% of the supply and voting that the data that you're putting on is correct, which might be malicious.
Right. Okay. So, you mentioned it earlier. You said, I think it was with your sale, like 80% of those people opened up a Para wallet for the first time. You're expanding, like I mentioned earlier, to Arbitrum. And what are you what are you hearing from these other ecosystems and their interest in using Gora? Like, are you getting excited about like the potential for, I mean, obviously I'm sure you are, but like, what is the vibe? Because I know Arbitrum, Polygon are next on your list here. And so, what's going on there that people should know?
And we were talking to business development team from Arbitrum, and on their Oracle's page, they have Chainlink, API3, Teller, all listed. And they said there's a clear differentiator here between what you do and what some of them are doing, right? So it's not like, oh, there's already an Oracle here. I think it's really, and even if there is, it's more important for a protocol to use multiple sources of data, right? So then there's other networks like near Cosmos, Radix that need more oracles that don't have Chainlinks and things like that. And so it's a space where we're able to make developers' jobs so much easier that they can focus on what they're building. You know, building a sports backend could take 50-60% of your time, and now you have a protocol that does all that work for you. You can focus on your smart contracts and not have to worry about building this secure oracle on your own. And so there's a huge value proposition there.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm remembering this correctly. You came to Algorand to build a sporting app, right? A sporting. Is that true?
That's right. Bankroll.app. It's not finished. We want to finish it. The moment it died down at Oracle, like it's in beta. Yeah, it works, but it's just been all hands on deck for Gora for the last, year and a half, almost two years now.
But isn't that fun? Isn't that how life is, though? Like you set out to do something, and you're like, well, crap, I can't do this here because I don't have. And so you needed to build your own Oracle, and you're like, wait a second, Algorand doesn't really have this solution. And now 2 years later, you're live on mainnet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's those things, right? What is it? Necessity is the mother of invention, right? And and it was something that was needed, and it really resonated with a lot of people building it. And it's not just on Algorand, but I think on other chains. And so, yeah.
Cool. Well, I did notice, by the way, and we have a lot more to talk about, but let's dive into Coop for a second. You mentioned it. Maybe there's some guys out there that want to hear the answer to this. So let's get into the first announcement. I noticed about a month or two ago, you guys made a bet on Twitter, right? Yeah. And, like if a post it got more than a certain amount of likes, and it certainly happened. So what is it that you said you were going to do, and what are you going to do?
So we're like, hey, maybe we should start, engaging more on Twitter. I wouldn't call it shitposting, but someone said, do a Coop pool, and I think it was me behind Twitter that day, and I was just like, yeah, sure. If it gets more than 1,000 likes, we'll do it. And it took like, I think 10 hours or so to get more than 1,000 likes. And I think like when I look back at it, like a week later, it had gone back down to like 500 or something. So I don't know, maybe there were some bots in there, but it certainly did. We just said if it gets 1,000 likes, and it did, right?
Right.
And so,
so somebody maybe in the Coop community made sure it happened. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying
you're
there, then they weren't.
All right. Hey, whatever. All right.
It's still by far our most engaged with tweet.
Good.
And in our next marketing meeting, I'm like, guys, we have all these marketing people, and that's our most engaged with tweet. A tweet about a meme coin, right? And so, I think it was a month ago, maybe more than a month ago, but we got to keep our word. And so we reached out to the folks at Cometa. Cometa is a great platform that we're big fans of, and we really want to draw more traffic there. And so sometime next week, we've made the decision that, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to have a Gora Coop pool, and you're going to be able to earn Gora if you stake your Coop there. So we're holding on to our side of that bargain. And thank everybody who kind of liked that post and really, like and made that our most engaged tweet.
Well, I mean, look at that, the Coop effect, right? The Coop effect. And Cometa is also a platform that's really supported Coop, so that's great. So you guys are gonna put a Gora Coop pool, and then you're gonna have some staking on Cometa, and you're gonna be able to earn some Gora from that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we're talking to the Cometa devs, trying to figure out the logistics, but that's going to be coming sometime next week.
Nice, nice. All right. So, well, you also had a big announcement that you wanted to make for your Gora network. So, what's going on there?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things is, like I've said, it's a very hard space to build in right now, right? A lot of the protocols who've been around when we signed our LOIs a year ago are just no longer there right now. And so even with us, it's been really hard continuing to build, hitting these milestones and going live. It took really everything we had. And so one of the key things that protocols have to do in this space is to innovate, to find ways to make revenue. And one of the cool things about Gora is other blockchains are outside worlds, right? Algorand is a chain and Arbitrum is the outside world. And so one problem we really had during the last couple of years was a lot of our vendors take USDC on Ethereum or Binance or whatever, another chain. When we were launching our token, most of our community were buying, and they were buying on like Polygon, they were buying on Ethereum, and then we would have to manually put them into our vesting portal. We had a pretty cool, sophisticated vesting portal. And so what we did, we said, hey, why don't we solve this problem using our own network? And so what we built was this Gora Finance app, right, where you can actually Circle is our API provider, and you can actually transfer USDC from Algorand to Arbitrum, Polygon, really any network that it's supported on through our upcoming finance app. Maybe in the future you can swap Matic for Algo from Polygon to here. And another piece of that protocol is going to be this kind of a launch pad where you can buy, let's say there's a project launching on Algorand or any network, and you want to, in a decentralized manner, raise funds on any chain. So we talked about a little bit earlier, where you can buy your token, like buy the Gora token, for example, on Polygon, and then you get your token on Algorand without the team having to really do a lot of manual work.
Right.
And so this really cool Gora, and also there's going to be some sort of yield farming, cross-chain yield farming things in there. And so this Gora Finance app, which we're going to announce in more detail tomorrow, is something we're going to be launching to help build one of the first 5 protocols using Gora Network. That's also going to help generate revenue for the protocol and for the Gora stakeholders.
That's amazing. When are you guys hoping to get that going?
So we're going to do the announcement about it tomorrow. It's in alpha right now.
Yeah.
Maybe sometime at the end of the month. I know we're going to have a naming competition. So we don't have a name for it. So we're going to have a naming competition. There's going to be a lot of hype around it.
Yeah.
And then, we're going to announce that. Once the name is set, we'll put it in test mode and let people test it out.
It's incredible. Well, you heard it here first, folks. But I want to say, before we sort of wind down, you got the Algorand hat. I know your history. You won. You won an Algorand hackathon. I think you were one of the first people to get the Oracle Super Grant, or you got a Super Grant from the foundation. You guys are deep. You've built through this bear market, the ups and the downs. There's been a lot of volatility, and if you're talking price, obviously it's not over $2 anymore. It's a lot less than that. And so, I mean, all of those things, and you guys have been through the ringer, and you're now live, you're building this, you're connecting to other chains, but you're still wearing the hat. You're still, Algorand is still home base. And maybe you can tell me, and also everybody watching, is what is it about Algorand? Why are you continuing to stick with it? Why haven't you packed up ship and said, never mind, I can make more money on, I don't know. Can you make money anywhere right now? But it doesn't matter. But, but I guess my point is what are you feeling about Algorand right now and the future, and, how it's going to best support Gora, and, how it's in your future plans as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been deep in Algorand, so I think we have some insight into a lot of the projects reaching out to us are institutional, right? Like insurance companies, banks, projects that don't talk about what they're building, and they just build, right? And a lot of people don't see that side of things. And some of these institutions may never, it doesn't make it past their prototype stage. Some of them makes it past their prototype stage, but it takes 2 years to get there, right? And even when it goes live, they'll never announce it because they don't really care that they just chose Algorand for that reason, right? And so a lot of people don't see that side of things, and these companies don't want to talk about it, and so we can't talk about it. The same thing is happening on I haven't met a single builder on almost any chain except for these massive ones like, Say or these Aptos or Sui or their Zeros who are getting these multi-million-dollar checks. Almost anybody else is in the same spot. And so when you're seeing the same kind of pain, I would say in other areas, you kind of start to understand that it's not really about. And the fact that we've been able to draw such a large non-native Algorand community, and 80% of our kind of community and our node runners, our technical people, are non-Algorand, I think it just goes to show if you're building a product, and we've gotten a lot of comments like, holy shit, I never knew Algorand was this cool or this amazing. I think we had a tweet about one of the comments the other day. You realize that it's not necessarily about, the technology or the hype or the brand, it's the products that are building on it. And so if the product that you're building on has a compelling use case, I don't think people will care that it's on Algorand. There's a lot of kind of negativity in the space, I think, because of how the foundation hasn't promoted it as much as people would like. And of course, there's could have been so much more done to keep it as a top 20 chain. But that is not the only kind of thing. Like, you can have a negative opinion about something, but still understand that it's up to each protocol. And it's really hard, right? It's not easy. There's not that many people building on Algorand. So it's so much more effort to bring users to your app building on Algorand, especially because it's different. And I think that's kind of the hard part where a lot of builders have trouble with.
So from unpacking what you just said, from what I heard is that, you have discussions with these larger, like more institution bank type of things. And these things are happening in the background, but nobody wants to talk about it. These projects don't allow you to talk about it. And it's not the most exciting thing necessarily that's happening over at these places. They're thinking, okay, how can we use this technology? Okay, Algorand makes sense. And in the end, Algorand may be in the background of some product or some service that they allow. But I think maybe because we're also consumed with this stuff, we want splashy stuff. We want what Polygon is focused on throwing a lot of money at splashy names. But really, we're going to get Bank of Italy over and over again. And it's going to happen when it happens. And it's probably not going to pump price. The only thing that will end at this point is get things to go up. The price to go up is demand, but because it's needed or something. Imagine that in crypto, that a token goes up because it's actually needed for something other than speculation. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it's going to be boring stuff: insurance, supply chain, things like that. FIFA is the biggest one. Like, even though that deal was a lot of negativity around it, it's still FIFA. It's still a massive company that chose, and that's kind of what we're seeing on our side. But definitely, I think the foundation has taken a lot of steps towards marketing and things like that. So maybe we will get that in the next bull run as well. I know there's a lot of competitors that are very similar to Algorand, AVM coming out. So that's going to be a super exciting as well. So we're looking forward to that.
For sure. How, just to kind of jump back to a previous conversation, how is there an amount of validators that in the Gora network that you are targeting? Like, is there a number that you're targeting, or is it just as many as possible?
As many as possible. I mean, to go geeky on you here for a second, I think the central limit theorem kind of states 30 is a minimum or a good number. Okay. But really, we want to hit somewhere in the hundreds. 1 or 2 or 300, I think, is a really good number where, once you start really exceeding that and going to the thousands, if the usage is not there, it doesn't really make sense. We've seen in testnet it go up to 10,000, right? Node operators, and it was running just fine. So really, as it becomes more used, I think 100 to 300 is a really good number. And the more usage, like if all of a sudden we have 100 protocols using us, then yeah, we might need 1,000 or more.
Right.
But for now, I think 100 is the next number we're trying to get to.
And how accessible is this to maybe somebody that's watching right now? How hard is it to run one of these, or is it gated? Is it permissionless? How does it work?
It's so simple. You just need to take your token and delegate it, right? You just connect your wallet and say, hey, you take this 10 Gora and validate for me and give me my rewards, and they'll take 10%. 10% seems to be what most
So
of the validators have put
right.
on there. Some people undercut at 5%, but the big ones all put 10%. And so it's a way for you not to have to worry about it. And if you have a small amount, there's a minimum stake right now anyways. So it just makes more sense to delegate it.
And then to run a node, how accessible is that?
It's very accessible. We had non-technical people who were running nodes for the first time. They wanted the incentivized testnet rewards. So they did everything they can, and some people got it up and running within 2 or 3 days. Should only take 15 minutes. But if a non-technical person can get it up and running in a weekend, it's extremely accessible.
That's awesome. All right. If you have any questions, I'm going to go to the YouTube chat right now, and we can get some questions answered before we get out of here. Let's see. Do I not have comments on? Oh,
I see some comments. I see one from Ivan asking if I have to bridge the token from Algorand to Gora if I want to delegate.
Yeah, do that. Answer. Yeah, I see the people here now.
Yeah.
So do I have to bridge the token from Algorand to Gora if I want to delegate?
No, the Gora token is native on Algorand, right? So because we're a network on our own, you have to verify things happen, that consensus actually happened somewhere. And right now, we verify that on Algorand. And even when we expand to other chains, a lot of our consensus is still going to be verified on Algorand. So the transactions will still happen on Algorand, even though data is being sent and used from other chains. So Algorand is kind of our home base, our home network, if you will, where we are now. There's going to be a lot of expansion, and there might be Gora token on other chains. But for now, Gora is native to Algorand. And if you want to delegate, everything happens on Algorand.
Got it. And then, yeah, so I think you answered his second question there. I'll go all the way. What's up, guys? So Algo Nice asked you, what's up? I was expecting more questions, but that's okay.
No worries. There's a lot happening. When we launched, there was a couple of issues with the UI, right? Delegating lock tokens, people who bought their vested tokens. So that's a major update coming. Obviously, we talked about some of the big ones for anyone joining. The Coop pool coming up on Cometa.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. There's the Voy testnet coming out. You've heard about that.
Remind me about that. Actually, I actually didn't. I didn't actually know about that. So, you guys are going to be on Voy testnet? I mean, it seems like an easy thing to do, right? It's AVM.
It's literally the same code, right? So,
yeah,
it's going to be a pretty cool way to just kind of have a nice, easy way to expand. I think there's a testnet, rewarded testnet, where you can run an Oracle. So we'll probably take advantage of that. So it's cool and a very easy way to expand into new chains and very interesting. So we're looking forward to seeing how that goes.
Nice. And then, okay, so then I shamed them into asking some questions, Abdul. Mort says, other than node delegation, what is the coin's utility?
So, you can vote. So we talked about decentralization, and all major decisions are going to go through the community from day one, right? Those decisions are going to be based on how much you have in a node or how much you have delegated, right? And so that's kind of a second key part is deciding on the future of the Gora token, paying for data, right? So if you're on other chains like Polygon or Arbitrum, right now you can pay in USDC, and that will get divided among the node runners, but you can get a discount. So if you decide to pay in Gora, you can get a discount on that subscription fees. So that's kind of the three main utilities there. But at the end of the day, that consensus is the key utility, the key thing.
Awesome. And then Ivan has another question where he says, when will mainnet price be live on the website? I only see testnet data.
Yeah, so those, I think he's talking about the price beacons. And so you see like with Chainlink or a lot of these oracles, they have this free price and you can just read price for free. the way we do it is like an API. So you actually request price data. So that's live. You can say, hey, I want the price of Bitcoin continuously. If you're asking about when will we have these public price beacons available, we probably will make it available because it's kind of considered a public good now. So we'll probably release something sometime in the next 1 or 2 months where you can just read the price of Bitcoin for free. But we don't want to get stuck in that Chainlink business model where you have all these free data feeds that these massive protocols have built on, and they're not able to monetize it, right? So right now, the main way of getting price fees is you make a call, you ask for the data, and you pay the fee for it.
Right, right. And then Joe wants to know how can you talk about what the integration process is like for data providers?
Yeah, so for data providers, it's an API, right? And a lot of the node runners have kind of these pre-configured sources that they have to call from. So if you're a data provider, all you need to do is you need to give out an API key. But the problem with that is API keys are public. So how do you do it? So there's this NPM package that we created that does asymmetric encryption. And what that does is it says, hey, sign a message and send it to me. And if your public key can decode that message, then we know it came from an authorized person. So we use this kind of public key. And so if you're going to become a data provider, you just have to put this extra little package to accept requests and be able to authenticate users who are making calls from the nodes. It's a lot easier to get cryptocurrency data providers like Amber Data and Brave New Coin and Kaiko, not Amber Data, and Kaiko and these ones, because they're Web3 native. It's been a lot harder to get Web2 data providers to implement this, right? So the sports data providers. And what we're doing is somewhere in between right now where we're helping them set up this infrastructure. So there's some sort of a layer between the data providers and the node runners that does this authentication for them.
Got it. So, so is it up to, yeah, no, and I understand. So yeah, that does kind of take my mind in some direction. So is it up to the node runner to have a data provider already kind of integrated with their node, or is that something that you can find within the you guys help guide that?
That's one thing we do differently is if you're a node operator, you shouldn't care about data. You shouldn't even know what is happening in the network. All you know is I've installed this node and now it's running, right? The node software knows which data providers to call and which sources are available. And it's up to the customer to make sure that they're paid up, right? And when the customer makes a call, this authentication module is just checking that the customer is actually allowed to make this call and the customer is paid up. The node networks normally wouldn't have to worry about all of this stuff at all.
Got it. And then right now, Tony says, for those who want to become validators, what is the best resource to go to right now?
For those who want to become validators, first of all, ping me or our team will add you to the mainnet validators, which is kind of a private group right now in Discord. And it just makes it easier to push out updates while we're in the beginning. It will become public, I think, after this next major upgrade that's happening right now. But if you want to become a validator, we had some Algorand native like Algo Scout that spun up a validator node. So right now, the best resource is our documentation, docs.goracle.io/technical documentation. Jump into our Discord where you can ask about that. Our Discord is kind of a bit of a mess right now. People are like, hey, where's my rewards? We just did massive incentivized rewards. And so a lot of people are just kind of talking about that right now. But once that chapter's closed, I think things are back down. But yeah, if it does close. But there's a mainnet validators and a testnet validators and a node runners channel. And generally, we have technical community members who are very helpful. And that might very well be the best kind of direction to be pointed into.
I know those discords can really turn into something. All right. So we got Freddie Arias. This project is way better than Chainlink. Well, I'm in it. I'm in it with you.
Disclaimer, Freddie works here. So.
Full disclosure. Freddie, that's funny. Okay. So Pedro, before we sign off, let's get Pedro's question in here too. And I haven't read it yet. So let's see what happens. How can you keep the record of a data feed from Gora? Is it up to a DApp builder to make regular data requests to Gora Network and store it on a chain like Algorand, for example?
Exactly. And we did a hackathon. We didn't talk about a hackathon, did we? We did a hackathon where we had 5 finalists. One of them was building a sports betting app. One of them built an insurance app. One of them built a game. And they were all getting the data and storing it on their own smart contracts. Algorand has unlimited storage, so you can store that, which is another key differentiator. So literally, yeah, you call the data and you store it on chain. You can use our off-chain network to store it on IPFS if it's like a lot of data, but if it's a few kilobytes, you can store it directly on chain.
Right. And, that's another thing, right? People want to do these super powerful apps and you need extra. Aren't you guys helping provide that kind of compute too to apps?
Exactly. So let's say one big one is you look at like apps like, Bancor or Uniswap. The reason for such high gas fees is like when you're doing these swaps, there's a lot of bonding curve math, and it can get pretty expensive to do that on chain. So our layer, our network can actually run that math for you and give you the result in a decentralized manner. It makes the gas fees so much cheaper. So that's going to be kind of our next focus on those chains that have high gas fees to offer that service.
Right. And Ivan wants to know, did you guys get funded by the foundation, and are you considering applying for XGov?
So yes to the first one. So we got a $250,000 grant very beginning. That was the Oracle Super Grant, and I think it was specifically for oracles. And I think it was us and Teller that got that grant. We used it to build the first version of it, and that grant was probably really helpful in helping us get our seed round funding. We got our product to MVP stage, and in fact, Algorand is one of their biggest investors in that seed round, which they invested another 500,000. But that's after the grants program and into the ventures, and so they own 3% of Gora, right? So if it ever does 100x, all that value goes back to Algorand. So I think it was a good thing for them to kind of move into this venture type scenario where they're able to capture value from projects that do make it and that do release tokens. So yeah, one of our biggest bag holders is Algorand.
Well, yeah, we'll put it. Well, I'm glad they're in the position of holding bags too. I'm just kidding. So let's see. Will all the validators nodes be on Algorand or cross chain?
The validator nodes in the current design are consensus is happening on Algorand. And so, for example, right now we have Arbitrum testnet. You make a request, our node network does the consensus. They write all the proofs to Algorand, and the Arbitrum contract just kind of verifies that proofs on Arbitrum, but it's first written to Algorand. So right now, all the transactions, everything is happening on Algorand. It's like the master chain, and all the other ones are kind of like these worker chains, and consensus happens on Algorand. We're kind of like a leech almost, a parasite. We need a chain to live on. We can't live. Maybe one day we'll become our own network with our own consensus, with our own block history. Right. But until that day, we need a chain to. So in that sense, you could say we're like a layer 2 or layer 3, where we commit all the final data to the chain below us. And right now, that's Algorand.
Got it. Well, look. Oh, it looks like Elevate was responding to the Discord, and he gives you hats off to how you guys are handling some of the excitement in Discord, and then 409 is commented that the foundation made a good investment in Gora. I would agree. I think also that move towards taking some equity and just not handing out the money and actually participate in the upside is a good idea as well, of course. And then Mort says it. He says, cheers, Abdul. I mean, cheers indeed. Thank you for coming on. Is there anything else that we missed that you would like to make clear to everyone?
No, I think we kind of covered it all. I mean, we could go on for hours more. It's definitely a hard space to build in. We got to keep building. We're just doing everything we can to kind of keep providing these services. I think a lot more people are coming on to decentralization and blockchain. Every month we're hearing some crazy bullish news, even in the depth of these bear markets, right? And Circle and Coinbase and these big guys are leading the way in a sense. And I feel like the next bull run, there's going to be so much UX improvements that are happening right now. And so it's going to take a lot of patience. And I know it's a scary place to be right now. So hopefully the future is going to be brighter.
Yeah, well, good good for you for continuing to build throughout this bear market, coming out stronger. And I'm excited to see all of the different things that you guys do. I mean, you're on mainnet. Let's go. And then I'll be tracking it. I want you to come back on the show and, just keep me updated.
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, for Algoracle the first time we were on, Goracle second time, Gora now, G, and then it's gonna be J or something.
Well, G, you'll go for G, and then maybe we can incorporate Coop somehow, because for some reason I like to put Coop in everything. So if I have any
tweet that got all that engagement, you might buy us out in the future sometime. Who knows?
Who knows?
Well, not you, the Coop community.
Oh yeah, the CRV.
You're a peasant in the Coop world.
It's funny. That's true. I am a peasant. Damn it. I end up a peasant everywhere I go. Even things named after me. Well, hey, Abdul, thank you so much. Everybody that's watching, I hope you'll tune in tomorrow morning. My live show is going to be back. It starts at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. And Abdul, thank you again. And I wish you best of success. I'm going to be tracking what's going on Arbitrum. When does that go on to mainnet on Arbitrum?
It's gonna be based on how long audits take, right? So I think building the smart contracts that make requests and responses are the easy part. The hard part is going to be getting the audit process, negotiating. It's a very expensive process, so it might take a month, it might take 2 months, but I think there's always a period where people have to try you out and use you in testnet. It's not like even if we went live tomorrow, people would go live anyways. So I think we'll just kind of work with protocols that are going to be building with us and work on their timelines.
Well, the Goracle YouTube channel had the suggestion of G Coop, so it came from the source. So there we go.
Soon. Oh wow, Goracle! I'm gonna find out who that is. We're still called Goracle too here. Freddie hates it every time I use the word Goracle. We'll see how many times I used it today.
Yeah, you only accidentally used it once. You did refer to yourself, so you're in trouble with Freddie. It sounds like.
Yeah. He'll point it up for sure. But I can say that our main is still called Goracle. So there.
All right, cool. All right, thank you, Abdul. I'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
All right, bye.